Hunter, what do you hope to tell the committee today?
Mr. Biden.
The greatest achievement this guy ever has in his entire life was over and done on the literal day of his birth. He didn't have to do anything else. It's the Biden brand, after all. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, as we speak, Hunter Biden is giving testimony behind closed doors to the House Oversight and House Judiciary Committees. This has been long delayed and negotiated. You remember Hunter Biden wanted public testimony, so he defied the subpoena that was given to him. They finally negotiated this arrangement. And the Oversight Committee chairman, James Comer, gave a press conference right before the hearings took place. And I want to show you one part of it, because he had to deal with this loud, obnoxious, half-crazed activist who was trying to heckle him and scream him down there out in front of the hearing room. Here, watch.
Mr. Chairman, what evidence do you have that either as vice president or as president, Joe Biden used his political office in any way to benefit either Hunter or James Biden's business?
We have evidence that Joe Biden met with the Chinese
But what
officials.
specific actions did he take
We've
as
had
a
several
public
people
official?
already testify.
But what action? How is AmeriCorps help?
Oh, I'm so sorry. The screaming, yelling, activist, lunatic protester is actually a reporter, a political reporter in the D.C. press pool. My mistake. It's an understandable mistake, though, isn't it? Watch.
How is this Chinese business helped by the fact that Joe Biden was vice president?
So let me ask you a question. You mentioned AmeriCorps Health. Does anyone in here question whether or not that was influence peddling? Does anyone question that?
I think there's a lot of questions about it, sir, because there was no evidence that Joe Biden did anything.
He got
as a public official.
$200,000
But
from
what
it.
did he do
And
as
the
a public
evidence
official?
that Joe Biden, that Jim
Didn't
Biden
those
said,
checks-
no, listen.
He wasn't vice president at the
Look,
time those
you
checks
can
were
you
passed.
can defend Joe Biden
I'm not
all day
defending him.
long.
I'm
You
asking
can defend Joe Biden.
to back up your
You can be on his legal defense team. Kevin Morris will probably pay your legal bills if you want.
You're not
But
answering my question.
No, I am answering your question. You don't understand what we've said over and over and over. Joe Biden took $200,000
Was he vice
directly
president
from
at the time that
AmeriCorps Health.
$200,000 check was put through?
Do what?
He was a private citizen at the time the $200,000 check went through, was he not?
The $40,000.
The $200,000 check, which you've cited twice.
So
now,
it's okay.
Was he a public official at the time?
So do you have a problem that Joe Biden's lied about this? Do you have a problem that AmeriCorps
I don't have any
Health
evidence that he's
booked
lied about
investors?
it. I'm asking you, what specific action did he take as a public official, an elected public official,
Well,
that
with
led
the,
to those
with the-
businesses
with the-
benefit?
with
If
the-
you have that evidence,
Yeah,
sir,
okay,
present
calm
it.
down, calm down. It's okay.
No,
It's okay. All the angry liberals do what you're saying. They'll be all right. Okay. All right, listen.
Have you ever seen a reporter asking a question of Chuck Schumer or Nancy Pelosi or Joe Biden in any way whatsoever like that reporter was just grilling James Comer? That is obnoxious. It's hard. This is what they have to deal with on a daily basis. And by the way, the questioning that you just saw there, what you just witnessed is the bar and the goalposts being moved all around the field now. Notice when this happens, the narrative shifts. See, first it was I never talked to my son about any of his business dealings. Then I was never involved with my son in any of his business dealings. And then I never participated in any of my son's business dealings. Then it was I never profited from any of my son's business dealings. Then it was I've never been in business with my son, which is a very distinct legal difference. And now, finally, the goalposts have been moved so far across the field that it's not even in bounds anymore. They've moved the goalposts actually onto a different field. It's no longer a football field. It's now maybe a soccer field. Because now the goalposts say, what specific action did Joe Biden take that benefited these companies that paid him and his family? And I just need you to know, because it's critically important, as you see this narrative shift in that direction, that the law doesn't care about that. You don't have to prove that any action was taken in exchange for money you received for access or influence in Washington, D.C. All that has to be proven is money was exchanged. And it doesn't even have to be money that came to you. It can be money that went to your son or to your brother or to your nieces and your nephews. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. If you or your family makes money or benefit by them selling influence and access to you. Game over. Game over. But now they're changing the narratives, as you just saw before your eyes, to such a drastic level to say, oh, no, you can't point to one specific action that this person took in exchange for that money. Boy, let me tell you something. If that were the rule of law with regard to public corruption, nobody would ever get arrested, let alone prosecuted for this kind of thing. Not that many people ever do, because the lawmakers write the laws that protect them from such a thing. That said, earlier today, right after that press conference, about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, Hunter Biden arrived on Capitol Hill. Here was the scene.
Jim Jordan just went through the main door. We're staking out, obviously, position. He's expected in the next 8 minutes, so maybe this is him. All right, here he is. All right, Hunter Biden arriving on Capitol Hill. All right, didn't take any questions, answer any questions. Remember, you go back to the moment when Hillary Vaughn was able to stop him in the hallway. Let's listen here.
There's a series of cameras set up, so they just get the relays here, one after the other. And we'll see whether or not there's any commentary that's given. When James Biden testified, I think he went in at a similar time, 10 a.m. I think he was still there after 7 o'clock at night. So that's 9 hours, not including a lunch break. And here we go.
Hunter,
picking up
what do you
the
hope to
camera.
tell the committee today?
Mr. Biden.
That might be the last relay. Let's see. Carrie's still with us. The moment he hired his attorney, who was by his side there, Abby Lowell, that seemed to get the attention of a lot of people in Washington.
Yeah, that's right, because Abby Lowell is the cleanup artist. He's the person that you call when you're in deep doo-doo. And that's exactly who is helping him out today on Capitol Hill. So, yes, he's behind closed doors right now. There will be leaks about this deposition. There will be plenty of things that will be put out in front of the public. And hopefully maybe we'll actually get a public testimony at some point. That often happens. They testify behind closed doors, and then they come and testify in public. This is how these committees have set things up. They've already talked to pretty much every single possible witness with any kind of knowledge about what business Hunter Biden was in and what he did to make his money, which, by the way, is the most fundamental question here. We know he made tons of money. We know that most of it came from foreign influences, from governments that are oftentimes hostile to this country. And the money was flowing in from various interests, energy companies, and such. And one must always ask the question here that is so fundamental to this case, because it gets lost. It gets lost in the politics. But the question needs to be asked. When you make money in business, you are selling a product or you are selling a service. That's just the fundamental realities of economics, of a free market. If you are making money in business, it's because you're selling a product or you're selling a service. Now, right now, Hunter Biden makes money selling art. That's his product, supposedly, and he makes quite a bit of money doing it. At the time, though, he was selling a service. They like to euphemistically call it the brand, the Biden brand. And so the question that every single American should be asking themselves, and hopefully will come up in the congressional testimony here, is if you were selling the Biden brand, what exactly does that mean? Was it your expertise? Was it your Uncle James' expertise? Was it your sister-in-law's expertise? I mean, if Joe Biden wasn't the vice president, how much exactly would the Biden brand be worth? Fundamentally, what is it Hunter Biden sold to his clients? And the answer is obvious on the face of it. You don't even need to see the evidence. The answer is obvious. He was selling his dad. It makes him Joe Biden's pimp. He was selling his dad on the other end of a conference call on the speakerphone when the client was sitting in the office. He was selling his dad coming into the restaurant with his vice presidential motorcade in Georgetown on his way home. He was selling his dad on the golf course with his clients for a foursome, just a nice, friendly 18 rounds of golf. You see, we have evidence that all of those things happened. The phone call on the speakerphone, the drop by to the restaurant in Georgetown, and the golf games. There's photographic evidence of all of it. We know that Joe Biden went out of his way to visit and greet his son at the very moment he had $1 million client right there with him, because Joe Biden was the brand. Joe Biden was the product. And we have testimony from former business partners. We have testimony from clients. We have testimony from James Biden, the brother and one of the business partners here. We have bank records of transactions and canceled checks that have been passed through over 20 different shell companies to hide the money. And now finally, you bring in the last guy, Hunter Biden. This is how a prosecution works. And you ask all of the questions of Hunter Biden to corroborate or to contradict all of the testimony you've already heard. Now, if Hunter Biden is smart, most of what he will say today is the Fifth Amendment. He will recite the words of the Fifth Amendment. But you need to know something. As far as politics are concerned, everything that we've learned about the Biden family and their corruption, it needs to be measured against one thing, and that was 1.5 minutes of the debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden with Chris Wallace as the moderator back in October of 2020. I want you to see it because I'm about to read Hunter Biden's statement. We do have that. He has distributed the written statement that he has prepared and that what he will read before the committee today. But before I read that, I need you to see this moment. It's 1.5 minutes long. This was the debate when Donald Trump raised the issue of Hunter Biden. I want you to listen to everything Joe Biden says here to win your vote. Everything that Joe Biden said at this critical moment to get this story out of the way so he could become president of the United States. And I want you to compare it to everything that we've learned since then.
Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. It
for
wasn't dishonorably.
cocaine use, and he didn't have a job until you became vice president. Once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
He
My
made a
son,
fortune,
My son,
and he didn't have a job.
my son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
But why
I'm
was he
proud of
given
my
tens
son.
of millions
All
of
right, but he
dollars?
wasn't given
All right,
tens of millions of
he was
dollars.
given
That
tens
is
of
totally,
millions of
that's been
dollars.
totally
President Trump,
discredited.
we've already been
Totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial
So do I.
subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make a
I know, but when
judgment call
somebody
here.
gets $3.5 million
Okay, right.
from the
Let's talk
mayor
about-
of Moscow,
let's talk
That is
about-
I
not
think it's a
true.
terrible
That
thing.
report is totally
Why did he get
discredited.
it?
I
Mitt
think,
Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers'
Gen-
money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
you know,
All right, so that was Chris Wallace, God bless him, doing really, really good work on behalf of Joe Biden. And when you watch that, don't you get ticked off? I know I do. I think the American people would rather hear about other things. Really? I'd like to know if Joe Biden's a crook, and I would like to keep hearing him deny this, because every single time in that clip just now, he said, that's not true, that's not true, that's been discredited. He was lying. Of course, his son made millions and millions of dollars from Ukraine, from Moscow, and from China. That's absolute fact. In fact, Joe Biden's own Department of Justice in a U.S. attorney's filing with 10 different IRS charges against Hunter Biden have actually stated that in open court now. So when Joe Biden says that's not true, I guess he's saying that his own Justice Department is lying. That's how they won the election. Or, well, one of the ways they secured the results, let's say. And part of it was Chris Wallace. Part of it was the media assist at that moment. Chris Wallace, supposedly a well-respected journalist, I keep hearing from people, who was so incurious about that story that he decided to buy the Biden denials and buy the fake report from 51 intelligence community professionals that it was really Russian disinformation. Honestly, I'm more angry and outraged at Chris Wallace in that entire escapade than anyone else on that stage. Here's the statement that Hunter Biden will read today to the House Oversight Committee. If you know anyone in your life, by the way, who is an addict and a liar, a serial liar, and the two usually go hand in hand, listen to this. You tell me if you see a pattern of behavior. I'm here today to provide the committees with the one uncontestable fact that should end the false premise of this inquiry. I did not involve my father in my business. Let me pause there for a minute. That's not what his dad has said. His dad has said that he didn't know anything about his business. His dad has said that he never talked to Hunter about his business. And now the new line is, I never involved my father in my business. But of course, we know that's not true too. We know that's not true because of the evidence that we've seen of him going out of his way to make sure that his father was, in fact, on the other end of the phone and what have you. I did not involve my father in my business, not while I was a practicing lawyer, not in my investments or transactions, domestic or international, not as a board member, and not as an artist. Never. You read this fact in the many letters that have been sent to you over the last year as part of your so-called impeachment investigation. You heard this fact when I said it weeks ago, standing outside of this building. You heard this fact from a parade of business partners of mine, including my uncle, who have testified before you in similar proceedings. And now today, you hear this fact directly from me. For more than a year, your committee has hunted me in your partisan political pursuit of my dad. You have trafficked in innuendo, distortion, and sensationalism, all the while ignoring the clear and convincing evidence staring you in the face. You do not have evidence to support the baseless and MAGA-motivated conspiracies about my father because there isn't any. You know, if you're trying to just tell the truth and not delve into politics or make your defense or excuses before this committee anything but the bare bones legal facts and anything but a political circus, maybe you should drop the MAGA stuff from your statement. Just a pro tip there. The second you throw the MAGA thing out there, seems like you're being a little political. You have built your entire partisan house of cards on lies told by the likes of Gal Luft, Tony Bobulinski, Alexander Smirnov, and Jason Galanis. Just for a moment, he's about to smear all of those people. Other than Smirnov, all of those people he just cited are people, they're horrible human beings. They're deceitful. You can't trust them. They're disgusting. They're also people Hunter Biden did business with. So, you know, take that into account. Luft, who is a fugitive, has been indicted for his lies and other crimes. Smirnov, who has made you dupes in carrying out a Russian disinformation campaign. There we go, Russian disinformation. Waged against my father, has been indicted for his lies. Bobulinski, who has been exposed for the many false statements he has made. And Galanis, who is serving 14 years in prison for fraud. Wow, why'd you do business with him then, Hunter? You've got terrible taste in friends, don't you? They're disgusting and despicable individuals when they're witnesses before this committee. But, you know, when they're potential business partners, this is a hell of a guy. He's my best friend. We should do business together. Rather than follow the facts as they have been laid out before you in bank records, financial statements, correspondence, and other witness testimony, you continue your frantic search to prove the lies you and those you rely on keep peddling. Yes, they are lies. To be clear, I have made many mistakes in my life, and I have squandered opportunities and privileges that were afforded to me. I don't know. Seems to me that he took advantage of every opportunity put in front of him. Dude made millions of dollars with no actual discernible skills whatsoever. Dude was raking in the bucks and living high on the hog. And what did he bring to the table? Well, he was born right. Honestly, the greatest achievement this guy ever has in his entire life was over and done on the literal day of his birth. He didn't have to do anything else. It's the Biden brand, after all. I think he's selling himself short when he says he squandered every opportunity. I think he kicked butt with the limited resources that he had. I am responsible for that, and I am making amends for that. But my mistakes and shortcomings are my own and not my father's, who has done nothing but devote his entire life to public service and trying to make the country a better place to live. During my battle with addiction, my father was there for me, helped save my life. His love and support made it possible for me to get sober, stay sober, and rebuild my life as a father, husband, son, and brother. I think, objectively speaking, you can look at his father's behavior toward him during his addiction and come to a different conclusion. You could say that he enabled his son, actually. He never intervened and actually got his son out of the lifestyle that he was living. He never said to him, stop. Stop trying to make millions on our name. Stop with the foreign businesses and the foreign connections. Stop with all of this. What are you doing on a board of an energy company in Ukraine? You know nothing about energy and even less about Ukraine. Son, for God's sake, you don't need all of this money. What are you doing with it? Sticking it up your nose? That's what a father says. That's what a father does. He actually enabled him. And the fact that he's still in denial about that for political purposes is sad. Really sad. I wish Joe Biden had intervened and tried to save his son's life. Instead, it seemed like he encouraged his son to continue this lifestyle because it was good for the Biden brand. And after all, this is the business we're in. Where else are we going to make money? From me? Just a senator. We don't make enough money to pay for all of this. And now Joe Biden has a beautiful beach home and 2 other houses. And everyone else is doing pretty good too. I actually sometimes feel sorry for Hunter Biden. Over the last years, Republicans have taken my communications out of context, relied on documents that have been altered, and cherry-picked snippets of financial or other records to misrepresent what really happened. Examples of this include a few references to my family in emails or texts that I sent when I was in the darkest days of my addiction. If you try to do that again today, my answers will reveal your tactics and demonstrate the truth that my father was never involved in any of my businesses. My testimony today should put an end to this baseless and destructive political charade. You have wasted valuable time and resources attacking me and my family for your own political gain, when you should be fixing the real problems in this country that desperately need your attention. What real problems? Hunter, come on. Bidenomics is working. No problems going on in this country. In fact, if there are real problems in this country that your dad wants Congress to fix, why is he just having meetings and insisting on Ukraine funding? That's not this country. Oh, why is he so intent on making sure more tax dollars go to Ukraine? Do you know anything about Ukraine, Hunter? Could you shed some light on that, perhaps? Weird how so much of his criminal wrongdoing is connected to Ukraine. And at the same time, it's Joe Biden's main priority. It's almost like Biden cares more about Ukraine than he does about our own border and our own people. Could there be a connection there? We'll just have to wait and see how this testimony goes.